Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. We had some more interesting news as Dillon Gabriel announces he is coming back in 2023. Personally, I think this is massive news for the Sooners. You especially saw when Dillon Gabriel was healthy. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. Gets another year under that scheme with Jeff Lebby. Very optimistic about this Oklahoma offense, and it wasn't even that bad last year. Like, you look at where Oklahoma struggled, it was on the defensive side of the ball. They were able to put up points. Excited to get into this and kind of preview what 2023 is going to look like for the Sooners. But before we do, just want to say thank you guys for all the support, especially like the last month. You guys have been absolutely awesome. Sooner fans, some of the best fans in the country. We love chopping it up with you guys in the comment section. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let us know your thoughts and opinions, especially you Sooner fans, on 2023. Dale, I'm going to let you kick it off. What do you think about the news?
I mean, I certainly think it's good news for Oklahoma. I don't necessarily know that it's like huge news. I don't think he really would have had much of a shot in the draft of going particularly high. So I am not super surprised. I kind of figured this was coming. But also, I'm not so sure he has this job like totally on lock. And I get last year when he wasn't playing, that offense was horrific. But again, you got a guy like a Jackson Arnold coming in. I'm not 100% sure Dillon Gabriel's a guy who's going to give you a chance to win a national title at quarterback. And if Jackson Arnold can, I think you shouldn't hesitate to start him.
So here's my take on that. And I get the Jackson Arnold hype. And am I a little concerned about OU fans, kind of like what happened with Spencer Rattler? Like, if Dillon Gabriel has a tough couple drives, the Jackson Arnold chance are coming. I'm a little concerned about that. I think Dillon Gabriel is confident enough and experienced enough to handle it. I think it's a great situation. You look at like what Michigan had to do last year with J.J. McCarthy and Cade McNamara. As much as it's exciting as a fan to have a highly touted 5-star quarterback coming into the program, it's still really important to realize they're an 18-year-old kid, true freshman, who hasn't played any college football. Sometimes rushing those true freshmen in cannot be great, and he's going to have the time to learn under one of the more experienced quarterbacks in college football. I mean, at UCF, 2 straight seasons of throwing over 3,500 yards. Last year, threw for over 3,000 yards. I mean, not many collegiate quarterbacks have had more success.
The problem for me is, and I get he's put the stats up and he had a solid year at Oklahoma, I'd say. But like you look at some of the games they lost, they shouldn't have lost that Kansas State game. Like, Dillon Gabriel can't miss those throws like what he missed to Stoops and some of those other, easy throws. You just can't miss them. And that's kind of my thing with like, is he gonna give Oklahoma a real shot at winning the Big 12? I'm not 100% sure he does. I think they need to be an excellent team around him for them to win. And I think you got to hope the defense is going to be better, but I'd be surprised if it was like the best in the country kind of good. And
I think this defense will get much better. I'm really under the impression that it was what OU was used to doing under Alex Grinch and Lincoln Riley was so different from what BV wanted to do with that program that the defense just strutted. You kind of notice it, and I hate to talk about Michigan again, but when Michigan implemented that new scheme on defense, there were a lot of growing pains, a lot of substitutions that they just were confused on, late getting calls in. I think that was a similar, like, tough transition that the OU defense had to deal with. The biggest thing about Dillon Gabriel, and I kind of want to talk about what I think this team will look like in 2023, is Dillon Gabriel, if he goes to the draft, you're looking at Jackson Arnold, a true freshman quarterback he's going to be a stud. I know it. I just don't know if he'll be a stud as an 18-year-old kid. And then what? Davis, Beeville, like General Booty, like that quarterback room was horrible.
I think the one thing it does add is it puts no pressure on Jackson Arnold now. Because even if Venables and Lebby decide like, okay, we might be good with Dillon Gabriel just like Clemson was good before they put in Trevor Lawrence. But if they want to crank it up and go to Jackson Arnold, I think it does lessen the pressure, because the only reason Arnold's going to play is if they're not really clicking on all cylinders. And then when you come in as the backup in that situation, you don't need to play that great to look really good and get the fans really excited. So I think that's a big benefit probably for Dillon Gabriel coming back. And if Dillon Gabriel can pick his game up like just a little
which I
bit.
think he's capable of. I don't think he's as bad as you think he was.
I'm not like saying Dillon Gabriel's like bad. I'm not sure he's the top end of the Big 12. That's probably where I stand. I think he's probably in the middle to the top, so somewhere in that range. I don't think he's up in like the top 3 or something. But again, he's gonna play solid football, and probably at the end of the day, the reason you'll see Arnold is again, I think they need to really struggle as a team, and it's not hard for him to come in. That's not a hard spot, just like it wasn't a super hard spot for Caleb Williams.
I agree with that, and I think it's just massive that if Dillon Gabriel went to the draft, Jackson Arnold would have to be the guy, whether he was ready or not, or you would have to go to the portal, because you look at the quarterback play when Dillon Gabriel could not play, it was horrible. I mean, they were running Wildcat. They just didn't want to run it. So now I want to talk a little bit about what this offense is going to look like. Obviously, Theo Weiss transfers to Missouri. That's tough. He was a guy that really never clicked at OU, kind of like Jaden Hazelwood, where it's like he's a big-time recruit, never really clicked. Do you think this tells anything about whether Marvin Mims is coming back? Because I feel like Dillon Gabriel would not be coming back if he knew Marvin Mims was not coming back.
I wonder. I guess to me, I still, at the end of the day, I don't think Dillon Gabriel is going to be a super high pick, and I'm guessing he's doing okay for himself at Oklahoma. Again, when we talk about NIL, who it helps the older quarterback who is not going to be a first rounder, but is the star of that program, and he was a meaningful part. He was obviously a big part of what they were doing. So I don't know that I think it means anything for Mims, but who knows? I mean, I'm sure Oklahoma fans will have their opinions on it.
I hope Marvin Mims stays, because I really do. One, Marvin Mims is one of the best wide receivers in the country, and I think he'd probably be a top 7 wide receiver, maybe even top 5 on our big board. We're still figuring that out. If he stays, he's a bona fide number one of the best wide receivers returning to college football in 2023. Feed me more Jaleel Farouk. Now that Theo Weiss is kind of like out of the picture, Braden Willis, I love Braden Willis, but he's gone too. And I thought those tackles during Florida State weren't bad. Like, I was really nervous about what Jared Verse would do with no Anton Harrison, with no Wanya Morris. I thought they were pretty solid. Guys like Sexton, they played pretty well. Now, Marvin Mims. Jaleel Farouk's a guy that if this offense clicks like I think it will click in 2023, he's going to be a 1,000-yard catcher. I think they have the potential to have 2 guys, Marvin Mims and Jaleel Farouk. Jaden Gibson was a guy that we really liked in the spring game last year. And then at running back, obviously you lose a guy like Eric Gray, who's an absolute stud. Javonte Barnes has taken over that backfield. I really do think he's one of the better running backs in the Big 12, even as a true freshman. This offense, another year under this system with a lot of key contributors returning, albeit your star quarterback, this is going to be a really good offense. And if they clean it up on the defense side of the ball with so many question marks about what other Big 12 teams are going to look like, this is an exciting time to be a Sooners fan as they move into the SEC.
No, I mean, it's certainly – again, I certainly don't mean it to say like I think Dillon Gabriel coming back is bad news. Again, it probably does nothing but helps Jackson Arnold, which again, and that's the guy I'm sure Oklahoma fans are thinking like, if we're going to win early with Venables, it's going to be on his shoulders. And that's when you are the 5-star quarterback, everybody thinks that way. Michigan thought that way and is still thinking that way. And I mean, again, that's just obviously a super important position, but I don't know. There's something that makes me think though that Jackson Arnold might take this position.
I don't know. I think people love to just go to the 5-star true.
That is me. I'm peak that. So
I know, and I just think it's like those guys. I think they need a year, and I think it's a really bad.
Sometimes like they don't.
And I think Jackson Arnold might be special. Like, you saw him in the Under Armour All-American game. I think he was the best quarterback playing, but he did show like signs of being young still, even when he was going up against like other collegiate level talent.
The one thing the reason I say it is I think if you're like that type of team and you have a guy who's playing well, I think sometimes coaches are too gun shy to play their young guys early. It's like Alabama should have probably been playing Tua the whole year. I mean, when he came in for that championship game, he obviously turned things around.
Clemson with K. Klubnik as well, potentially.
100% he should have probably been playing a little earlier.
Now, Dillon Gabriel is much better than DJU in my opinion, and wasn't playing nearly bad enough. Like yeah, maybe they struggled to win that game because Dillon Gabriel missed a few throws against Kansas State, but he also made a lot of big time plays, and that defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. So it was never Oklahoma never lost football games because Dillon Gabriel wasn't playing.
But I guess also that the difference is like they also weren't winning a whole lot because of him. Honestly, I thought Eric Gray helped him a lot, and
Eric Gray was a beast.
Eric Gray was able to do for that offense and how well they could run it against the teams they were beating. But I mean, at the end of the day, you have the record Oklahoma had. It's not a great season.
And we also have some breaking. As we're talking Oklahoma, I get a Twitter buzz. I got the On3 notifications. Offensive lineman Caleb Schaefer from Miami of Ohio heading to Oklahoma too. I think that seems more of a depth piece than anything because I really do think this Oklahoma offensive line, one, they do a great job developing offensive linemen. I think Anton Harrison is going to be a top 20 pick in the draft. But I think they're good on the offensive. Like you saw the starting five who's probably going to be out in 2023. They held up against one of the best defensive lines in the country in Florida State and Cheez-It Bowl, who were playing all their dogs. This Oklahoma team, I'm optimistic about the bump you're going to see in 2023. I think it was some growing pain years. I think they had a lot of guys who weren't Brent Venables kind of guys. Those guys are moving out. Brent Venables is getting the guys that he wants in. He's going to the transfer portal. He brought in a great 2023 class. Very, very exciting time to be a Sooner. They're going to definitely be a team that we talk about a lot in terms of conference championships and potential college football playoff experience or appearances, excuse me. Again, we'll leave it on that. Wanted to keep it short for you guys, but massive news. And it's kind of cool to see NIL keeping some of these really good quarterbacks in college football a little longer. Michael Penix, Bo Nix, now Dillon Gabriel. Again, if you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We do appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.